Okay, in this video tutorial, we're going to look at how to build not a spatial query, but how we're actually going to build a query which selects data according to its attributes. In the last video tutorial, we looked at how we built a spatial query, a two-stage spatial query, which first of all identified the locations of sites within a certain area, and then further selected sites within this sample that were within 250 meters of the River Boyne. Identifying data spatially is one of the great tools of GIS, but similarly identifying data according to its attributes and locating and isolating that data is another very powerful tool which GIS offer. As we've covered in a lot of the lectures and already in these tutorials, if we look at our spatial data, we're able to open up the attribute table. And the attribute table contains all the information which can be associated to the data shown in the GIS. And this data can really include anything. We can see in this particular data set here, which is the Sites and Monuments record, how we have an awful lot of different information. We have grid coordinates, and we have the class, which is the type of monument we're looking at. We then have a description, whereabouts it is, what townland it is, Sites and Monuments record, and a series of other notes. So there's a huge amount of data associated with this GIS graphics file. And if we, for example, were just to highlight some of these entries here, we can close that down and we can see that it has identified each one of these entries individually in the GIS screen. So what we're going to do today is we're going to be a lot more specific than this. We want to use the GIS to identify two types of sites which are often associated with each other. They're both early Christian sites. The first one is high crosses, and the second one are ecclesiastical enclosures. Now, if we look again at our Sites and Monuments record here, we can see in the class section that it has a classification for each of these monuments, and this is actually already sorted alphabetically. If it's not sorted alphabetically, you can do that by double clicking on the class tab at the top, and it will do that for you. So we're going to scan down until we come to ecclesiastical enclosures, just so that I can show you how many of these entries there are. Okay, so there we are. We have that many ecclesiastical enclosures, and if we just close out of there, we can see that they're evenly distributed along throughout the entire area. But we actually want to select not just the ecclesiastical enclosures, but also the high crosses. And we're going to do that by creating an attribute selection tool. If we click on selection again, instead of going to select by location, we're going to go select by attributes, and we're given this quite familiar window, which is quite similar to the spatial select by spatial attributes, spatial location. Now we want to select from layer meet sites, which is correct. We want to create a new selection where the class equals, and we want, if we click here on get unique values, the GIS will look at the class column and it will bring back all the different values, which will come in here. So what we want to do is select class equals ecclesiastical enclosure, and what we've done here is we have actually constructed what's called an SQL, or standardized query language query. Now we can check and see whether the computer understands that by clicking verify, and we're told that the expression was successfully verified. And then if we click apply, it will identify these sites in the GIS window. Now we of course want to build a slightly more complex query, and if we wanted to stop here we could just close this down and we could export these values separately. But we want to ask the GIS to select all the attributes which either have ecclesiastical enclosure in their class column or which have high crosses. So to do that, we've already got the first part here, class equals ecclesiastical enclosure. We want to select the OR button, class equals get unique values, and we are going to click on high cross. Okay, so we want the GIS to look in the class column and everywhere it sees either ecclesiastical enclosure or high cross to highlight those things. So let's check and see if that works. If we're told it does, let's click apply. Okay, we've highlighted all of them here. Okay, so let's close that. Still highlighted, and what we're going to do is we are going to export those values and create a new file. So data, export data, and we shall call these Meath Early Christian SMR. And we have brought out 18 features, and so let's add them to the map. Okay, so we've added these Meath Early Christian SMRs here. Let's turn off the other SMRs so that we have just identified these sites here. Let's take a look at them. If you notice that actually some of them are situated together. So we have three different entries here in the same spot. And similarly up here, we have a cluster of sites up here.